This is me. This is also me. This is me. And this is also me. And finally, this is me. This is also me. Between each before and after image, it's years of work, years of progress and effort. Failing until I succeed. To fail, you have to start. To succeed, you have to start. So just start and see what happens. Start and then persist. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Desmond IRL, and the word of today is persistence. And same as all my other videos, we're going to be detailing 4 points that basically goes through my understanding of this word. And yeah, thank you for joining me. So, in keeping with the same structure as my previous videos, we're going to start with point number 1, which is defining persistence for myself, but also looking at Merriam-Webster's, their own definition of what persistent is, and also a few synonyms. So I would say for myself, persistence is the quality or behavior of being unyielding towards, I guess, a desired outcome or goal. The idea of being unyielding is obviously when you're trying to achieve something, there are a number of things that can happen, things that can be in your control, things that can be out of your control. When thinking through all of the different variables of what's impacting your ability to see something through, I think all of that kind of goes into the idea of what it means to persist or what it means to have persistence. So that's kind of the way that I'm thinking about it. But now we can look at Merriam-Webster's dictionary definition. So let's see what it says. Definition number 1, it says the action or fact of persisting, the quality or state of being persistent, especially perseverance. And synonyms that we have for persistence are continuation, continuity, continuance, and continuousness. The way that persistence is being described is based on the word persist. So we're going to go a step further, looking at the definition of the word persist instead. So persist is a verb. We have 4 definitions. I'm going to look through them all. I think it's relevant. The first one is to go on resolutely or stubbornly in spite of opposition, importunity, or warning. Number 2, to remain unchanged or fixed in a specified character, condition, or position. Number 3, to be insistent in the repetition or pressing of an utterance, such as a question or an opinion. Number 4, to continue to exist, especially past a usual, expected, or normal time. A synonym of persist that I see listed is persevere, similar to what we saw before, perseverance. So I think Merriam-Webster's definition of this word is pretty consistent with the way that I'm thinking about it, especially the first and second one, actually all of them. To go on resolutely or stubbornly in spite of opposition, to remain unchanged in a fixed or specified character, condition, or position, to be insistent in a repetition or pressing of an utterance, to continue to exist, especially past a usual, expected, or normal time. So there's an interesting thing about the word persistent. There's this kind of unconscious notion that you have passed a state where the possibility of giving up, quitting might not be unreasonable to factor in. The state of persisting means that you are going beyond what might be expected in the hopes of getting an outcome that might have never happened normally. And I think that kind of gets into point number 2, which is what does it mean to persist? And how do we determine the thing that deserves it? And I think more so in this particular point, I think the latter part of this statement is maybe most important, and kind of what I was getting into, like what I was saying before about maybe persistent involves reaching a point where passing a certain point where, you might have wanted to give up already. Maybe staying in this particular race is yielding unfavorable conditions because it's a bit harder, to persist for this long. And I think kind of what I want to branch into is this idea of determining what deserves that level of continuation, what deserves that level of perseverance, what deserves that level of persistence. And I think obviously it depends everyone's individual lives, but I think I can just begin to speak on, at the very least, the things that have worked for me, and also what I feel like I have noticed work for others. I feel like being human beings, being, of this earth, we all have a particular kind of life that we want to live. We all have have a particular kind of lifestyle that we wish we had. And with me residing in the United States, it is imperative that, and this is the thing that they tell us from childhood, it is imperative that, we get an education. It is imperative that we choose a career that's going to be lucrative so that we can make enough funds to support ourselves and eventually a family. But outside of that, we also have other dreams and goals and things that we inspire to do, things that we inspire to create. So there are going to be a lot of things that we're going to have to persist in to accomplish any of what I just listed. And I think of it as like two different categories, right? Determining the things that deserves that level of persistence or perseverance. Obviously, if we're speaking on education, getting a college degree, first you have to graduate high school, which is, go through K through 12, which most people are given an opportunity to do, right? That in and of itself is a level of perseverance that is worth being, praised for. You're getting your high school diploma, you're graduating high school. It's a worthy accomplishment. And then the way that you did that, right, determines how, exactly the next part starts or how it happens, which, can be community college. It can be a 4-year university, anywhere in the country. Me being in the United States, anywhere in the country, any of the states, So yeah, you needed a level of persistence in each preceding part to help in the next part, right? High school comes before college. College comes before career. A career builds you up, financially, to be able to support yourself, but also your future family if that's what you want, or your existing family. And these are all things that you have to persist through, right? Having a college degree, going through that experience it's not guaranteed. Having a career, a long successful career is also not a guarantee. These are things that we have to persist in. And I think of these things as being, I don't want to say necessary, but in a way they are necessary for life at the bare minimum. Obviously there are different routes that you can go. You can choose to be an entrepreneur post high school or post college. You don't have to get a 9-to-5. In today's world, 2026, there are tons of ways to make a living, to make an income, to support yourself and or your family. So I don't want to just say that like, oh, in this category of things that you need to persist in, college is number one. There are many ways of choosing the things that require persistence. And this choice is obviously, it can be conscious or it can be unconscious. It can be intrinsic or it can be extrinsic. It can be things that we sought for ourselves that we feel like we need in our lives, or it can be extrinsic. Motivations that our parents are pushing on us to do or things to pursue. Either way, regardless of where the motivation is coming from, if it is something that you're continuing in, then it is an example of persistence. So that's in, I guess, the need category. The want category, and this is a little bit, maybe a bit more detailed. Like it could still be connected to the need category, but I see them more as like wants, not necessarily things that you need. Like for example, if let's say, and this is out there, let's say I wanted a yacht, right? Yachts obviously are different sizes. This is a crazy example, but yachts are different sizes. They cost millions on top of millions of dollars, right? So to be able to afford something like that, obviously I have the career that I've worked up to and has been able to provide me with a certain lifestyle. But if that's something that I really want, I'm gonna have to do different things. I'm gonna have to make certain changes. And this is assuming I'm existing at a baseline lifestyle that supports me, right? That I'm able to even have this want. You can't have that want before you establish a baseline for yourself. But yeah, to want this yacht, to want to have something, to be that caliber of a high purchase, there are gonna be some things that I'm gonna have to do in my life to be able to accumulate that kind of wealth, to be able to then purchase, that luxury item, that luxury experience. And I have to determine what new things I have to begin to do and persist in to be able to afford such a thing. I think of a person like Jeff Bezos, which everyone knows, billionaire, creator of Amazon, started out as like an online library, and then it just became this essentially a staple of most people's households. Like you can order practically anything from Amazon, and a lot of his wealth is obviously in the stocks that he owns of Amazon. And everyone knows the story of him starting small, a small business, him persisting through this kind of imaginary future reality that he wanted for himself of this product that he's creating. Every business that goes on or that started that is now worth billions or millions of dollars was once, I guess the way that I think about about it, this dream of an imaginary reality based on this product. And for me to be able to afford a yacht, I would have to find something that I could persist in, that I could be unyielding in, stubbornly in, that would yield, enough results, that would yield enough wealth for me to be able to get this want, that I desire. And that's kind of an extreme example. Obviously, if I wanted to buy myself a nicer car, that's not necessarily a need, it's a want. It goes in the want category. I'd have to switch around some things, and this is a more moderate goal, right? I could be more persistent in my behavior of, budgeting, my behavior of saving money, putting aside money so that I can eventually be able to afford, let's say luxury car. I think, this is a way to begin to determine, the different ways in which persistence can be tagged onto certain things. You can separate them into a need category, and you can separate them into a want category. And this is all determined based on, as I said before, the lifestyle that you want and the lifestyle that you feel like you need, right? So once you determine that, then you can determine, how you want to where you want to put your energy, where you want to put your persistence in. And hopefully I wasn't jumping the gun, but now we're going to go to point number 3, which is, what does it look like? What does persistent look like? So we've kind of talked a little bit about, what persistent looks like. As I mentioned before, the different areas that you can persist in based on, a need or a want. But I think it'd be nice to get into, let's say, some examples. First example being the parable of the persistent friend found in the Bible. I think it's Luke chapter 11 verses 5 through 10, and I am referencing actually verses 5 through 13, and I am referencing the New Living Translation, and I'm going to read this right now. So he also said to them, and this is Jesus speaking, "Suppose one of you has a friend and goes to him at midnight and says to him, 'Friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread, because a friend of mine on a journey has come to me and I don't have anything to offer him.' Then he will answer from inside and say, 'Don't bother me. The door's already locked and my children and I have gone to bed. I can't get up to give you anything.' I tell you, even though he won't get up and give him anything because he is his friend, yet because of his friend's persistence, he will get up and give him as much as he needs. So I say to you, keep asking and it will be given to you. Keep searching and you will find. Keep knocking and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who searches finds, and to the one who knocks, the door will be open." I feel like that is a great starter example for what does it mean to be persistent, how it looks. Obviously, that is a parable. We should take everything with a grain of salt and apply it to our lives as required and as needed, because obviously everyone's lives is very individual and specific. But that's just the first example. The second example, and this is the common one that I feel like people reference a lot, being, the Wright brothers. This pursuit of, trying to create planes that can fly. Obviously, having a lot of trial and error with such a goal and having it be decided that it's not possible. I feel like that kind of persistence into the unknown is, I think, a key characteristic. I think there are ways to persist in things that are known, right? We have an understanding of what the outcome can be. There's also this idea of persisting into the unknown, right? Staying unyielding or staying stubborn in the pursuit of something that you don't know which direction it's going to go. You don't know what the outcome might be. It's all unexplored territory, right? I think that is kind of the case for the Wright brothers. This idea that this innovation in the form of creativity is bred from their persistence, right? And that's low-key that's an idea that can be another video, and I think it will be a bit another video. Just, what does it mean to be creative? What is creativity? Like, how does that, I want to get into that. But I think obviously as we go through this word persistence, or what does it mean to persist? There are tons of examples out there, famous examples. You could ask people, what are things that they'd have to have persisted in to get the things that they have. Maybe you see it in their life. You see someone who's fit, that they have cleaned up their diet, perhaps they go to the gym enough times. If you see someone who has a nice car, if you see someone who has a nice career, a nice house, embedded in a reality of their current lives, there was either a need or a want to persist in something to get that desired outcome. And that kind of leads me into my next and final point, which is, look for past examples of persistence and let it serve as evidence for what's next. This is kind of the philosophy that I've let take root in my own life. The way that this philosophy has taken root is in the many things that I feel like I've been able to do and have done. As I've mentioned in some of my other videos, I think the one before this from Ignorance, art was a big part of my life. You know, the many different forms of creating, thinking through ideas, right? All the different softwares that would accompany, you know, this creation, photography, film, choreography, all these different things, etching, printmaking. I was in this art school, you know, from 4th grade to 12th grade, and for about 4 years, right? Let's say 4th grade to 8th grade, I was, let's say, an average art student. I wasn't winning really any awards, any competitions, but it wasn't until like 8th grade, 9th grade that I started to find my stride, like remaining in this pursuit of wanting to become a better artist, of wanting to better my craft. You know, I began to win awards. I began to establish a kind of artistic identity for myself, the way that I created art, a kind of style that I adapted, right? This was all pre-college. This is all high school. This is before any of my architecture work, before any of my architecture academic exploration. But because of that, the skills that I built, and I can show images, you know, as I talk, because of the skills that I built, you know, in a variety of mediums, I've been able to use, you know, that evidence of persisting in that sort of artistic path and continuing to better my craft. I use that evidence for things that I want to do next. The next thing was architecture. I've just completed 6 years of architecture school, right? I got my Bachelor of Science from Washington University, St. Louis, and I just got my MArch, my Master's of Architecture from UC Berkeley. Having had the evidence of my artistic career pre-college, I use that as evidence to know that even though architecture is something that is foreign to me, I know that I can eventually, you know, I can eventually be proficient. I can be competent in this if I just stay diligent, if I stay persistent, if I persevere through the hard times, through the late nights, through the gaps of knowledge that I feel like I'm experiencing with myself and amongst my peers. If I just stay persistent, then I know that I can eventually reach a level of proficiency in this in the same way that I've reached it with my art. And I feel like I keep building, I keep allowing that to build upon itself. I do that with everything, with my art, architecture, skateboarding, learning to make videos, this, editing, eventually, you know, photography. Eventually, I want to get into fashion design. Eventually, I want to, you know, get better at guitar. I want to be more consistent with that. There's so much that I want to do that I'm going to do. And I know that things take time. And this is probably going to be another point of another video. What does it mean? What is time? You know, how do we allocate time towards things? And I feel like a condition of persistence is time, right? You have to understand that it's going to take a certain amount of time to accomplish what you want. And for me, time works in years. If anyone tells me that they're bad at something, I immediately ask them, well, how long have you been doing it? Have you been doing it minimum 2-3 years, sometimes 4? If you haven't, then you can't quite say that you're bad at it, you know, because you haven't reached that point where you've put enough time into it to really be able to develop yourself in whatever you're doing. I take that same approach with a lot of what I am pursuing, and I feel like that approach has worked out well for me. I've just, you know, I'm done with the architecture academic journey. I'm about to start my architecture career. I have a job lined up, you know, and alongside that, I have other hobbies that I'm doing, you know, fitness being one of them. That was also something that's taken me a while to work at. I really started my fitness journey in 2023, and I think that I've been able to build a nice physique. I also started running during that time. I've been doing that and building that skill. I've done a half marathon, 10K, 5Ks, and the next is a marathon and eventually an Ironman because I have dreams of being a triathlete. I say that to say I let my past examples of persistence, I let them serve as evidence for what I want to come next in my life. And if you're watching this video, I think, you know, you can begin to do the same. You can look for examples in your own life. You can look for examples in your family lives or the lives of your friends, the lives of people that you know, people that you don't know, famous people, whatever you need to do to get yourself to start. You know, that's the preceding condition of persistence. You need to start before you can finish, right? These are all important points. And this is just, you know, my understanding as a 24-year-old, you know, of this word persistence and how I apply it to my life. I think I want to continue, you know, this kind of exploration of other words. If this video was helpful to you, if it inspired you or made you think anything differently or didn't help you think anything differently, you know, let me know in the comments. Let me know how I can continue to better these videos, for what people want to see, how I can better increase the quality. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, feel free to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more. And hopefully I can keep this going. And yeah, if you want to watch any of my other videos, be sure to check out my channel. My name is Desmond Young. This is Desmond IRL.